South Carolina Property and Casualty Insurance EXA. Which of the following homeowners forms is designed to provide named peril coverage for personal property to individuals who rent an apartment? HO4. What is the maximum penalty for habitual willful noncompliance with the Fair Credit Reporting Act? $2,500. The individual named insured endorsement under a commercial auto policy provides coverage for which of the following? The sole proprietor of the business and his or her family members. Which of the following homeowners policies covers those who rent their dwelling? HO4. Which of the following insurance options would be considered a risk-sharing arrangement? Reciprocal. CGL coverage B, personal and advertising injury, will cover ________________________ inadvertent injury to others caused in the course of advertising the insured's product. Employee theft coverage may be written as _________________________ Blanket coverage, name schedule coverage, position schedule coverage. Who might receive dividends from a mutual insurer? Policyholders. The reduction, decrease, or disappearance of value of the person or property insured in a policy by a peril insured against is known as loss. Which of the following is a mandatory part of an insurance policy that varies with each individual policy? Declarations. Limited fungi, wet or dry rot, or bacteria endorsement in HO policies applies to _____________________________________________________________________________________________________________________Which of the following is not an optional coverage available in a business owner's policy? Workers' compensation. Which employee fidelity bond pays no more than its limit of liability for each separate occurrence no matter that several separately identifiable employees were involved in a single loss? Commercial blanket position. In comparison to Consumer Reports, which of the following describes a unique characteristic of investigative consumer reports? The customer's associates, friends, and neighbors provide the report's data. The type of crime policy under which coverage is triggered by a loss that happens during the policy period but is not necessarily discovered during the policy period is the _______________________________________________________________________________ A tornado that destroys property would be an example of which of the following? A peril. Which of the following would not be considered part of the insured location under the liability section of a homeowner's policy? Vacant farmland owned by the insured. Which type of losses are covered by the South Carolina Wind and Hail Underwriting Association? Both direct and indirect losses. Which of the following would be included in the farm liability coverage forms? Bodily injury to a residence employee. What will happen if a house covered by a standard mortgage clause is a total loss? The insurer pays the mortgage according to the mortgagee's interest in the property. In dwelling policies, automatic increase in insurance is ______________________________________________________________________________________________________coverage by endorsement. Under a business owner's policy, a loss of earnings is subject to ______________________________________________________________________________________________________________________ 12-month time limit for business income. Employee fidelity may be written in all of the following ways except location schedule. What provision in a property policy applies when the insurer broadens coverage but does not increase the premium? Liberalization clause. The personal injury liability endorsement to an whole policy applies to all the following except underscore 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 underscore. A third party breaks a leg when the insured knocks him down. Under the provisions of the business income coverage form, all of the following are true except the insured is reimbursed for the loss from the date of loss to the date of the restoration or policy expiration date, whichever comes first. Erroneous Publishing copied all the material from Angels Incorporated's book. The only changes made by Erroneous were to rename the title and chapters, put a different cover on it, and distribute it as its own. Angels Incorporated files a claim against Erroneous and seeks damages. Will a commercial general liability policy cover the claim? No, because the claim results from copyright infringement and is not in an advertisement. Within how many days of requesting an investigative consumer report must an insurer notify the consumer in writing that the report will be obtained? 5 days. Which of the following is true regarding the premium computation for workers' compensation insurance? A premium auditor has the right to examine the insured's compensation records at the end of the policy period to determine the actual premium basis. In a farm policy, which of the following coverages would reimburse the insured for loss of rental income following damage to the insured dwelling by an insured peril? Coverage D. In a dwelling policy, which of the following provides coverage for additional living expenses incurred by an owner-occupant in the event a covered peril makes the premises uninhabitable due to a covered loss? Coverage E. What term includes damages where the insured peril was the proximate cause of loss? Direct loss. Who is an insurance producer? Any person licensed to sell, solicit, or negotiate insurance. Coverage A. Bodily injury and property damage in the commercial general liability policy will cover underscore 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 losses due to the insured's negligence. Once the director issues a cease and desist order, how soon must his insurer comply with the order? Within 30 days. Uninsured motorist bodily injury coverage pays for all of the following except down payment on a new vehicle. The risk management technique that is used to prevent a specific loss by not exposing oneself to that activity is called avoidance. According to the loss payment condition in HO policies, losses must be paid within how many days of the insurer receiving proof of loss? 60 days. An insured has an actual cash value of $200,000 and he has insured the property for $120,000 with an 80% coinsurance clause. A $40,000 loss occurs. How much will the policy pay? $30,000. Which of the following list all the required elements for establishing a charge of negligence? Legal duty owed, standard of care, proximate cause, damages. Which of the following is a formal program developed by an employer to fund its losses as an alternative to the purchase of insurance? Self-insurance. When the insured's car was totaled in a recent accident, the ownership of the car was transferred to the insurer. The insurer then sold off the wrecked car to recover some of the loss it paid to the insured. What is the term for this action? Salvage. Under which of the following conditions can broad theft coverage be added to a dwelling policy? If the insured is owner-occupant of the dwelling. Which of the following is true regarding the difference in conditions, DIC, policies? Each DIC policy is an individually written contract that contains provisions unique to the particular risk that it covers. Which of the following types of valuation works best for property whose value does not fluctuate much? Agreed value. An insured was involved in an automobile accident for which the insured was at fault. Which of the following coverages would pay for damage to the insured's automobile? Collision. After acceptance of an application by the SQA, how long is the waiting period before coverage is effective? 15 days. A plasterer has finished a job. What kind of liability coverage would protect him if the plaster falls and hurts someone because he did not do the job correctly? Completed operations. If an insurance company makes a statement that its policies are guaranteed by the existence of the Insurance Guarantee Association, that would be considered underscore. An unfair trade practice. The director is conducting an examination of a foreign company transacting business in South Carolina. Who is responsible for the cost of the examination? Foreign company. An insured condominium unit owner wants to purchase fire and extended coverage for personal property and liability coverage for himself and his family members. He should purchase underscore. Ho 6. In which of the following sections of a commercial auto policy will you find specific information about the policy period? Conditions. The declarations page of the homeowner's policy provides all of the following information except a statement that earthquake damage is not covered. All of the following are classes of inland marine risks except common carrier cargo liability. A premium discount is the term that describes when an insured owes a total standard premium greater than $5,000. Before granting a certificate of authority to a company, the director must be satisfied by proper evidence that all of the following are true except the insurer does not have a certificate of authority in any other state. All are true about the South Carolina Property and Casualty Insurance Guarantee Association except it does not cover workers' compensation claims. Which of the following protects consumers against the circulation of inaccurate or obsolete personal or financial information? The Fair Credit Reporting Act. A policy condition that states if a policy is broadened with no additional premium, then the expanded coverage will be automatically applied to all policies of the same type is known as underscore. Liberalization clause. Which of the following is true of dwelling policy coverage? Exclusion apply to all three policy forms. Faulty wiring in a home is an example of a underscore. Hazard. Dwelling coverage includes all of the following except land on which the dwelling is located. Which of the following is not the consideration in a policy? The application given to a prospective insured. Which of the following statements is true regarding the commercial general liability policy's coverage? See medical payments. The coverage is considered goodwill because payments are made without regard to fault. Which of the following would the livestock coverage form not insure against? The euthanasia of livestock after being hit by a vehicle. Employee fidelity may be written in all the following ways except location schedule. The inspections and surveys condition in a business owner's policy __________ allows the insurer the right to inspect the insured's premises. Which of the following is not true regarding mobile agricultural machinery and equipment coverage? This coverage must be written as part of farm coverage. Which of the following endorsement is used by individual business owners who use company vehicles for personal use rather than purchasing a personal vehicle? Individual named insured. An insurer cannot non-renew a homeowner's policy because of ____________________________________ a loss caused by an act of God. What type of coverage protects the insured in an accident caused by a driver with insufficient coverage? Underinsured motorist. Which of the following would be covered under the garage liability coverage form? Insured's business premises. HMS Toys carries more inventory from October 1st to December 31st. Which of these would provide higher coverage limits during those months and lower limits the rest of the year? Peak season. According to SC law, comprehensive deductibles do not apply to safety glass. An applicant is denied insurance because of information found on a consumer report. Which of the following requires that the insurance company supply the applicant with the name and address of the consumer reporting company? The Fair Credit Reporting Act. An insured purchased an insurance policy 5 years ago. Last year she received a dividend check from the insurance company that was not taxable. This year, she did not receive a check from the insurer. From what type of insurer did the insured purchase the policy? Mutual. Conducting insurance in this state without a license would be considered a ____________________________________ The insured with a homeowner's policy has had damage to his property caused by a volcano. Which of the following is true? All volcanic eruptions within a 72-hour period will be considered one occurrence. The part of a policy that clarifies terms in the policy is the ________________________________________________________________________________________ If an insured owns a watch valued at $10,000, full coverage can be provided on a homeowner's policy by purchasing the ________________________________________________________________________________________________________________Scheduled personal property endorsement. Which of the following statements is incorrect with regard to surplus lines insurance? Policies written by a surplus lines insurer typically contain standard coverages and forms. Section 1 of boat owner's policy covers physical damage. All of the following are true statements regarding the supplementary payments of a commercial general liability policy except they pay defense costs even after the aggregate limit has been reached. Which of the following losses would most likely not be covered under coverage A in the dwelling policy? Theft of a renter's lawn mower used to service the premises. The members of a limited liability company are insured under a business owner's policy, BOP, if _____________________________________________________________________________________________________________ The limited liability company is designated as the named insured. If an employee consumes alcohol, becomes intoxicated, and is injured at work, she is ___________________________________________________________________________________________________________ Not covered if the consumption of alcohol is proven to have caused the injury. Illegal use of narcotics would be an example of a moral hazard. What is the purpose of the government crime coverage form? To provide crime coverage to those who do not qualify in the normal market, who are required to be members of the SC Property and Casualty Insurance Guarantee Association. All admitted P&C insurers. Driver A has a personal auto policy with Part C UIM limits of 100/300. He is injured by Driver B who has Part A bodily injury liability limits of 50/100. It is determined that Driver B is at fault for the accident. Driver A has $125,000 in medical expenses. How much will Part C UIM coverage will pay? $50,000. Which of the following produces evaluations of insurers' financial status often used by state departments of the insurance? AM Best. The primary purpose of a surety bond is to ________________________ make sure obligations are fulfilled. Under coverage C of a farm policy, what is the limit payable on business property located away from the premises? $500. If the premium charged for a particular insured is increased or decreased for a future period based on that insured's loss experience for a period in the recent past, the policy uses _______________________ experience rating plan. The process an insurer uses to evaluate applications and determine if a policy should be issued and on what terms, conditions, and rate is known as underwriting. According to the Standard Mortgage Clause, who has the right to bring a suit in their own name to recover damages, pay policy premiums, and submit a proof of loss? Mortgagee. The party to a surety or fidelity bond who promises to fulfill the obligation is the __________________ principal. The part of the policy that sets forth the rules of conduct, duties, and obligations of the parties is called the _______________________________________ Which of the following property coverages would provide protection to contents damaged by fire? Coverage C. An insured unintentionally accepted forged currency during the course of regular business. Which of the following crime coverages protects against such a loss? Money orders and counterfeit paper currency.